So for the second video, we're going to have a new set of enemies, which will include a boss enemy, someone who is level 7. And we're going to see how tactics evolve in the face of higher level challenge. The habit of attacking multiple times, including with a -10 penalty, will be even less useful against an enemy who is levels higher than the party. So that is something we'll watch out for. So here they are going to walk into a wizard's library, and the party has been exceedingly careful. They just encountered the whites earlier today, so Jarell still has her drained condition. It only goes down with a night of rest. And the GM has secretly rolled perception checks for those characters who were searching as their exploration activity, and none of them detected the pressure plate that opened a door behind them and got this giant scorpion attacking the party. Now, those of you who have seen the first video will recognize this beast, which was a boss for a level 1 party, and it will not be for this party. And so it'll be interesting to see how level matters in this demonstration. So the giant scorpion has a 40-foot speed and will go all the way up to the enemy and will make an attack against the druid. So the druid has an armor class of 22, and the giant scorpion, whereas it would have critted with a 15 at level 1, needs a natural 20 to crit this time. It's going to sting. 29 is a hit. So this is a regular hit, and will do 9 damage to the druid, which is a fraction of his health, but he still has to save against the poison, and the number he needs on his fortitude save is an 18, which at level 5 is much more manageable. He does not succeed, so he's going to get this 1d10 poison damage and gain the enfeebled 1 condition. So the scorpion, with its next action, will use its pincer against the druid and miss. So the ranger is next. The ranger has her bow in hand and could hunt prey against the scorpion and do hunted shot. The ranger is going to, I believe, do that. So there's only one enemy, she should just focus on it. So she will hunt prey and make a ranged attack. Now, this is going to provoke an attack of opportunity because ranged attacks do so, and also she has to interact to draw an arrow. Both of those trigger its attack of opportunity reaction. So it will use its stinger against her and miss. Now, she's actually thinking of moving back to gain, to remove the volley trait. But yes, she will do that, because that also will free some room for Jarell and Valeros to move up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is makes 35 feet away. So hunted shot made it possible for her to do all these things: to hunt prey, get out of range, and make an attack. So 24. It gets a +1 circumstance bonus to AC because of lesser cover from another creature being in the way, but that's enough. And this will do some damage. So this will be 9, and then the precision damage from hunt prey will make it take 15 damage. Then she has the second part of her hunted shot, and that will also hit and do 5 more damage. Yeah, damage is damage. The druid's next, and one of the reasons why the ranger took her turn then was to draw its attack of opportunity away if it had one, and it used it against her. So the druid is not that worried that there'll be another reaction. So the druid will move back here, and now the druid had considered for a second doing wild morph or wild shape to duke it out with the scorpion, but the druid sees that there are other people in the party who can take it head on. So the druid's going to move back here and use his healing tools. He has 1 free hand because he's poisoned. It's a medicine check against the DC of the poison, which in this case is 18. If he succeeds, he gives himself a +2 circumstance bonus to his next fortitude save against the poison. So he critically succeeds. So he gives himself a +4 circumstance bonus instead. Now, if he were to critically fail, he would get a -2 penalty, so it's not always good. His turn now ends, and this is when he now saves against ongoing afflictions that call for a new save. So he is now going to make his fortitude save. 23 becomes a 27 because of his administer first aid, and that's more than enough to resist the poison, and he has no effect. He goes down 1 stage, and he was at stage 1, so it is now gone for him. And that also means he is no longer enfeebled 1. Valeros sees the scorpion and remembers his first encounter with the giant scorpion, and his player wants to roleplay this situation and run away. The other players roll their eyes. They are not happy with this player's choice, but the GM thinks it's fun, and he's going to run all the way here. Well, actually, right here. So, and that stair makes that square, entering it, difficult terrain. And he sees that there are these ghasts. He has the light, he has the Wayfinder on him, and he sees that with his last action. Seeing this, he's going to raise his shield with his third action. He didn't expect that. So the GM had rolled the ghasts initiative secretly and had rolled stealth for them. The ghasts had heard them walking into the library, and so they were aware and were consciously trying to avoid notice. So they rolled stealth for initiative, and even if they had rolled higher, they would probably be lying in wait and delaying. Well, anyway, they're next. So ghast number 1 is going to walk forward and attack Valeros, and probably move right here, actually. And Valeros wants to keep his reaction. He doesn't want to attack this ghast. He's not sure how strong it'll be, and he doesn't know if he can prevent it from attacking him. And he wants to keep his reaction to shield block in case that's needed. Because of his feats, he has other effects that are added to shield block, so another part of his reasoning. So the ghast moves here, and also, when it moved within 10 feet of Valeros, this is a ghast. It has a stench, so he needs to make a fortitude save against its BO. And a 23 succeeds, so he is not going to gain the sickened condition, thankfully. So, with its second action, it will try to bite Valeros and miss. And with its second attack, it will use its agile claw attack and miss. Now, these ghasts are level 2 enemies, so they're substantially weaker than Valeros. The scorpion is a level 3 enemy. Next is Jarell. And Jarell would like to help Valeros, though they have this giant scorpion here, and she's going to be... She wants to give some protection to the druid. So the problem is that she can't see the scorpion because Valeros took the light with him. So the scorpion is hidden to Jarell. What you can do is attack a square, and if the creature is in that square, she would have to succeed on a DC 11 flat check to target the creature with something, such as a strike. If she were not sure that it is in that particular square, the GM would roll it secretly. Well, in this case, she wants to move forward. She is going to do a feint, and the GM is going to make up a penalty because she can't see the thing. So she's going to try to do a feint against the scorpion's perception DC. So this will be a deception check of 18, and the scorpion's DC was 19, so even with the penalty, well, with the penalty especially, it's going to fail. So Jarell, with her last action, will make an attack against the scorpion, and she needs to succeed on this flat check She does not. She could spend a hero point at this time since it's a d20 roll to succeed, but she won't. So she'll miss the scorpion and continue to provide some protection to the druid. The ghast is next, and it's going to run forward and move here with its first action. Then it will do Swift Leap, which is a special ability that ghasts and ghouls have to move half their speed and not provoke reactions while doing so. It does this instinctively. It actually does not know that Valeros has the attack of opportunity reaction, but in this case, it definitely helps it. So with its last action, it will now try to bite a flanked Valeros, and hits due to the flanking. So it will roll damage, which is 8. Now, Valeros has not used his reaction yet, and he's going to use the shield block reaction now. So that lets him apply the hardness of his shield, which is 5, to lessen the incoming damage to 3. And then that damage is applied to both him and to the shield. Next, he needs to resolve his saving throws. The ghast is now exposing him to ghast fever. He needs to do a fortitude save, which has a -2 circumstance penalty because the ghast have this stench aura that imposes it. So he will save against the fever. And then next, he needs to save against the paralysis. So he will do that. Critical success. Now, I'm going to point out that its paralysis ability, like it is in D&D, is very dangerous. It would make him lose his turn and make him flat-footed to attacks. Now, it's a 16, which is not very high. It is a lower level creature after all. But in addition, because it's a debilitating ability, it has the incapacitation trait, which is a very important trait in Pathfinder 2e. When the creature that is imposing this effect is level 2, any target that is higher than level 2 gets to treat their saving throw against this paralysis as 1 degree of success better, because it has incapacitation. So it's weaker against higher level enemies. So remember, there are 4 degrees of success. There's critical failure, regular success, and critical success. So if Valeros had had a regular failure on his saving throw against the paralysis, let's say he were to roll a natural 2 on his die and get a total of 14, that would be considered a regular failure against most effects. But because this has the incapacitation trait, it gets promoted to a regular success, and he is not affected by the paralysis. This makes level much more important in Pathfinder 2e, and it allows effects that completely shut down a creature especially, but also other effects. It makes them less effective against higher level enemies. Now, if this were a spell that were to paralyze him, then what would be relevant would be the spell level, and he would need to be higher level than double the spell's level. So in this case, he critically succeeds on his roll, so it's critical success, no problem. Now, he has some feats that strengthen his shield block reaction. So he has shield blocked this incoming attack. So he has aggressive block, which lets him shove the creature, and the creature must decide whether to be flat-footed or to be shoved back 5 feet. It would be flat-footed until the start of Valeros' next turn. And his other feat allows this to affect creatures that are up to huge, occupying a 3x3 area. And it chooses to be flat, to be shoved back. Next is round 2, and the GM had a trick up their sleeve. When they stepped on this pressure plate that revealed the scorpion, they also activated a dormant specter that was hiding in this arcane device in the middle. The wizard had this specter as their strongest line of defense. And by the way, these corpses here are from recent level 1 adventurers. They are freshly dead. Okay, so the Spectre is now coming in round 2. It rolls initiative. The GM knows that all of these enemies together add up to a 130 XP encounter. This is our boss. The Spectre is a level 7 creature, 2 levels higher than the party, just like our giant scorpion was in the first video. So this is 130 XP total strength of the enemies, which is higher than a severe encounter of 120. But the GM believes that this is going to be okay, because they're not all coming against the party at once. Because of this delay, it's going to be a small, less intense straining of the party's strength. The first turn goes to the giant scorpion. The scorpion is going to attack Jarell. Now, the scorpion has dark vision, so it has no problem targeting Jarell, and it's going to sting her, or try to. It will miss. Next, it will try to use its pincer against her and miss. Now, this is a critical failure. Swashbucklers have the ability to called Opportune Riposte. When an enemy makes a critical failure on a strike against you, against the Swashbuckler, starting at level 3, they get the Opportune Riposte reaction, which is to make a strike against the enemy. Now, she can't see the enemy, but I would allow this to happen. It's her class feature. It doesn't come up very often. And she would still have to do this DC 11 flat check, which she fails, unfortunately. So, the next thing that we'll do, we'll try to make one more attack and miss. The Ranger still does not have a clear sight against the Scorpion. It would like Valeros to come back with the light, so, but it will make an attack anyway, for now, just hoping to get in some lucky shots. So she will do some flat checks, and she might hit with the second attack. And so she attacks with her -5 attack. A 13 will miss, so they're not doing very well with the dice. Okay. Ulrich is a druid, and he's a dwarf, so he can see this scorpion. Now, he can wild morph at this time and walk into melee. However, it has attack of opportunity. So he actually will wild shape, and let's look at his options. He doesn't have to be the same animal every time. The spell gives him a choice of different animal forms. So there is ape, bear, bull, canine, cat, deer, frog, shark, and snake. He's going to turn into a frog, and the reason is because he can attack with his frog tongue, which has a 15-foot reach. So by doing so, it takes 2 actions for him to turn into this giant frog, but he can now make an attack at 15 feet away, and he will do so. Okay, also, because he's a 5th level druid, he gets to get the attack bonus comparable to a martial character. He gets a +14 to his attack, and he will add 14 to this attack roll. 25 will hit the scorpion easily, and he will do tongue damage, which is 2d4 bludgeoning +5. 8 bludgeoning damage with his tongue. So he managed to damage it because of his 15-foot reach. He didn't have to provoke an attack of opportunity. So he gets a hero point from the GM for his creativity and use of his spell. But they have another thing coming. The Spectre now comes into the battle. The Spectre is quite powerful for their level. So it appears, and the moment it goes right here, it has a 30-foot aura. So it now exposes Valeros to its frightening presence. Valeros sees this fearsome creature and must now immediately do a will saving throw. A 21 will fail. And a failed saving throw for Frightful Presence will give the Frightened 2 condition to Valeros. Even a regular success will make them Frightened 1, and a critical failure makes them Frightened 4. So it's a very powerful ability. It continues flying over to Valeros. It has a fly speed of 40, and will now make, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It can actually flank him at this time, and will now use its 2-action special ability called Spectral Corruption, where it makes a Vile Touch attack, its normal melee attack, and it critically succeeds and do 26 damage, 26 negative damage against Valeros. And the Spectral Corruption forces him to make a will saving throw. Well, first of all, it gives 5 temporary hit points to the Spectre, which is here. And then he's forced to make a will saving throw. And his 23 fails. And because he's frightened too, that made it a failure. So misfortune adds to misfortune. So because he fails against Spectral Corruption, he is now controlled by the Spectre for a turn, and that's the regular failure effect. He's going to be controlled by the Spectre on his next turn. Okay, so that's the Spectre's grand entrance. Next, it's Valeros's turn. He's now controlled by the Spectre, and the Spectre decides what he does on his turn. So he is going to move up and attack the nearest party member using his Double Slice feat. So this is a hit, and that does 10 damage. And with his next attack, his accurate second attack, he will miss. So not as effective against an equal level enemy as it was in the first fight against the whites. Ghast 1 is next, and by the way, he doesn't have to make repeated saves against the Ghast if he succeeds against one Ghast. Well, the Ghast moves up here with a swift leap, and it's going to then attack Valeros with Jaws. 26. Oh, and Valeros's frightened condition went down. All right, the Jaws hit. So that's going to be 7 damage, and he's going to have to save against the disease and the paralysis. The 18 will succeed or be a critical success. They both have the same effect here. Next, the Ghast will make a claw attack and miss. Jarell is next, and still, well, can now see the Scorpion. So it's going to try to, she's going to try to actually feint against it. She hopes that its perception DC will be lower than its reflex DC. And it also has the added benefit of, if she critically succeeds, it will be flat-footed against all of her attacks until the end of her next turn. So she doesn't always need to tumble. That's not always the best course of action for her. So she's going to do a feint against the Scorpion. And that succeeds. So it is flat-footed to her, and she gains Panache. So the next thing she'll do is make a strike with her main weapon, and that hits. And that adds her precise strike damage of +3. She could have used the finisher now, but she wants to make 2 attacks this turn. And besides, her attacks until she loses Panache gain +3 precision damage. So that's going to be 12 damage to the Scorpion. Another thing about tumbling through is that it would have provoked an attack of opportunity. So another reason to use feint in this situation. So her next attack is going to be her finisher, and she's going to use her main gauche, which is her offhand weapon, which is an agile weapon. She's going to use her confident finisher. So even if she has a regular failure, she's going to still do half of her precise strike damage. She critically hits, so that is going to hit and also do her finisher damage. So actually her damage would be 30, which is more than enough to kill the Scorpion. The Scorpion was not nearly as scary at level 5 as it was earlier. So that's her turn. She loses Panache. This ghast will now swift leap here, and so not triggering the attack of opportunity, much to his frustration, and now try to bite him. And that's a miss, and this claw will also miss. This also forces Lorien to have to make a fortitude save against its stench aura, and she succeeds. Next, it's Lorien's turn, and I had forgotten to ask Lorien to make a will save against the Spectre. So it had not affected any rolls up to this point, so she now makes that save. And that's a failure, a regular failure. So she's going to start at Frightened 2 for this turn. So she's going to move here. She's going to hunt prey and use Quick Draw to take out her rapier against the ghast. And that hits thanks to the flanking. So she will do damage and also get her precision damage in. So that's 16 damage against the ghast. Lorien's frightened value goes down by 1 at the end of her turn. And next is the druid. The druid is in wild form and sees undead are remaining. He would love to do heal spells, but he thinks he can get a little mileage out of this frog form by attacking the ghast, and will use his 15-foot long tongue to attack the ghast without having to enter its stench aura. However, moving here exposes him to the frightened presence aura of the specter, so he's going to have to make a will save. Oops, let me roll twice. And a 25 succeeds, which still gives him frightened 1. And he will now make his attack against the ghast with his tongue. And this is going to be a plus 13 bonus. It's a critical tongue hit, so he's going to do double damage with his tongue, and it will be 18 damage. That kills the ghast. So with his last action, he will dismiss his frog shape, which is 1 action with a concentrate trait. So that brings him back to his dwarf form, and then his frightened value goes down by 1. So next is the specter, and the specter wants to expose more people to its fear aura. It is going to fly over here and expose Jarell now, who now must make a will save against its fear aura. She makes she succeeds, so she's only frightened 1, and this will affect her saving throw against what's about to happen. The specter uses its spectral corruption ability, 2 actions, and makes a vile touch melee strike, and that succeeds. It critically succeeds. So the specter is going to do critical damage and do 36 negative damage against Jarell. And she must now make a will saving throw against against the spectral corruption. Now this is bad. She critically failed. And okay, she could spend a hero point, which is probably a good idea, but let's go with this because let's see what it does. It's as failure, but the duration is unlimited, and she gets a new will save at the end of each of her turns. So, one thing that happened when Valeros stopped being controlled was he gained the Stupefied condition. So that Stupefied 2. So that means that he has a -2 status penalty on his will saving throws, and that he and everything that's based on a mental ability score, such as intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. So next, the specter will... Okay, the specter has now controlled Jarell for an unlimited time. All right, it is now Valeros's turn, and he could use double slice against this Aghast, but that might be overkill because he's very accurate. He might crit on his first strike, and it would commit him to using 2 actions and make any third attack have a -10 penalty. So he's just going to make a regular strike and go with that. Gives him some more flexibility. And he succeeds, and he's going to roll 19 damage against the Aghast. And then he's using his longsword. And that was a natural 1 that would not have hit anyway. And he's going to go for a -10 attack because it's a lower level enemy, it might hit. And he misses by 1, unfortunately, because of that frightened condition. So he is now frightened 0. Alright, the Aghast is now wounded, and it's very hungry, so it has a special ability called Consume Flesh. If it's adjacent to a corpse that died within the last hour, it can regain hit points by devouring it. So it can gain 3d6 hit points by doing so. However, it has the Manipulate trait, which means that will provoke an attack of opportunity from our Valeros. So he is going to do that, and he can also disrupt it since it's a Manipulate action. And this will hit. This will do 14 damage and destroy the Aghast before he can eat. So that ends that Aghast's career. It is now Jarell's turn, and she is controlled and working for the bad guy. So the Spectre commands her to go for Valeros, that fighter that has shown his threat. So she's going to walk through Spectre because they're allies, and get as close as she can to Valeros. She does not have Panache at the moment, but she'd like to have it. She's next going to feint against Valeros to try to get Panache. So, oh, but she's going to be using Goading Feint. That's her level 1 feat as a Swashbuckler. She took that as her class feat, where she can, instead of making the enemy flat-footed, she can make the enemy get a -2 penalty to their next attack against her, which is very useful against very accurate enemies that might critically hit you, which Valeros is. So here we go. A 15 will not succeed at feinting against Valeros's not very high perception DC of 18. That's not very high for a level 5 character. Jarell will then try one more time, because why not? And she will succeed this time and make Valeros have to get a -2 penalty on his next attack against her. If she were to critically succeed, he would get a -2 circumstance penalty on all attacks against her until the end of his next turn. So she gains Panache as well. Her frightened value goes down by 1. And now it becomes Lorien's turn. Oh, she gets a new saving throw against the effect, and she fails again. So she continues to be a thrall to the Spectre. So Lorien is going to hunt prey against the Spectre. This is the only threat left, and it's quite dangerous. She's going to move back as well so that she can avoid the volley penalty. So with 1 action left, she's going to use Hunted Shot. And that's a 25 that hits, and she will do her next roll, which misses. Well, she's going to roll 11 damage. However, she does not get precision bonus damage because the Spectre is immune to precision damage. So she only does 11 piercing damage. On top of that, the Spectre has resistance to all damage. So it has resistance 5 against all damage, with the exception of certain types, and if it were non-magical damage, it would be doubled. Fortunately, she has a +1 bow, so she only has to deal with resistance 5. So this 11, which would have been increased against a normal enemy, is not increased, and furthermore, it's reduced by 5 to only 6 damage against the Spectre. Now, this is... oh, and it had 5 temporary hit points, so this is not looking very good for the party members. They're going to have to figure out how to use their abilities because the precision damage is not going to work against the Spectre. Next is Ulrich, who is an expert in religion and wants to recall knowledge about the Spectre and learn more about it. So he has a plus 13 bonus. The number he needed was 23 for a level 7 creature. It's also included here in Foundry. And he succeeds, and he finds out that, yes, it resists all damage, that it's immune to precision, it resists all damage 5, and that one of the ways to bypass it is through positive damage. So he relays this to the rest of the party, and the players now start talking. If it's immune to precision damage, then Lorien, the ranger, can't get precision damage from hunt prey. But Lorien's hunted shot feat allows her, if she is able to connect both shots, to combine the damage from both strikes before subtracting damage from resistance. Same thing with Valeros's double slice. He hopes that that it will be near the ground so that he can use a 2-action activity, double slice, to combine the damage from both strikes before resistance takes place, because you cannot ready a 2-action activity. Then they also note that it's flying around and it hasn't used any ranged attacks yet. So ideally, they would like to, when it ever comes down to the ground, be able to grab it, but that's not happening with it being incorporeal. So they are thinking, okay, what can we do to maximize the chance we can critically hit? Because the way resistance works, it's a flat number that's subtracted from all incoming damage. If they can critically hit and double the amount of damage coming in, that same flat amount does not grow with it. So critical hits will do essentially possibly triple damage or more effectively compared to regular hits. So they want to really focus their efforts to get very high attack bonuses, maybe do 1 attack per turn if that's necessary, and set up very accurate attacks. So Ulrich has 2 actions left. So what he's going to do now is try to cast Heal, which has a 30-foot range, on the Spectre. He uses his staff, which has 3 charges because he can prepare up to 3rd level spells, and he can use 1 charge at a time because it has the 1st level version of Heal in it. And so he's only able to expend 1 charge at a time because it's only the 1st level version of Heal. And so he's going to do that, spend 2 actions to force it to make a Fortitude save against his Heal spell. So it succeeds on its saving throw, and so only takes half damage. He rolls a d8 for the level 1 heal, and that's 7. So it will take 3 damage, positive damage, from the heal spell. Next is the Spectre, who will go after that Spellcaster and try to corrupt him. So it will make that Vile Touch attack and critically hit Ulrich. And he takes 44 damage and now needs to make a saving throw, a will saving throw against the effect, and he is not controlled by the Spectre, thankfully. Valeros is up next. He has a 20-foot speed, so he's not able to flank. He would love to be able to flank the Spectre and do double slice. So what he'll do is just move here and then try to double slice the Spectre. That will miss. He rolled a 1. Nothing can really help that. And then he misses again. I also had forgotten to lower Lorien's frightened value at the end of her turn. So no one's frightened in the party right now. And Jarell is still controlled, and she will go up to Valeros now that she has Panache and try to kill him. So here is, she's going to do a finisher using her first attack because it's the most accurate in this case, so she wants to use it for that purpose. Sometimes she might want to use it as her second attack against a weaker enemy, but she will use it now. And that is a miss, fortunately, for the party. And then she has no panache now, and will now try to use deception to goad him again. And she critically succeeds, so he is now has a -2 penalty against her until the end of his next turn. But hopefully she will not be working for the bad guy anymore. Let's see. She still is, so she is still controlled. Okay, so Lorien is next and wants to get that critical hit to happen. So she's going to move back here and use an action to hide behind cover and try to, and it's going to be a +2 circumstance bonus to her stealth check because of the cover. So she's going to roll stealth and succeeds against the DC, which in this case was 25. So she succeeds and it is now flat-footed to her next attack. She now, with her third action, is going to use Hunted Shot. And its AC is increased by lesser cover by a creature being in the way. And it is flat-footed to her, so -2 circumstance penalty. So she needs a 24 on this. And rolls a total of 30. So that's going to do 15 damage. Her second attack is against AC 26 now. And she hits again. Excellent. So Hunted Shot means that she gets to add the damage from both strikes first before applying resistance. So that's 23. It's immune to precision. And so 18 damage is applied after resistance. 5 of that goes against the temporary hit points, and 13 goes against its actual hit points. Okay, so Ulrich is next. I did not mention yet that its spectral corruption ability is very powerful, as we can see, and it also has the incapacitation trait. So if the party were level 8 and were to encounter this same specter, it would not be nearly as powerful, and their saving throws against spectral corruption would be treated as 1 degree of success better. So I want to point that out. Also, even though Ulrich had successfully saved against spectral corruption, that did not prevent the success condition, which is that he becomes Stupefied 2. This is completely avoided if he were to critically succeed, and furthermore, it would have made him 1 minute immune against spectral corruption. But he is still susceptible to it, and he's now Stupefied 2, which for a spellcaster is very bad, because if he now tries to cast spells, he now has to roll a flat check of DC 5 plus the value of the Stupefied condition, in this case 2. So he would have to roll a D20 every time he casts a spell, and have a 7 or higher every time, and if he fails, he loses the spell slot, he wastes the action. So this is very precarious for the party. Now Ulrich has a healing staff, and he can do many things with it. He can, because of Stupefied, maybe he wants to cast heal against the specter 3 times, because at least something will get through. But he is concerned about his own health, and so he will use his 1 3rd level heal slot to try to heal himself up to near full, which it can possibly do, and save his 1 1st level heal charges on his staff to try to raise the party up if anyone's knocked out by these critical hits from the specter. And so even though the 1st level heal will only heal 1 to 8 hit points, they at least would become conscious, and that could make all the difference. So he's now going to cast 3rd level heal on himself, but he might fail this flat check. So it's a tense moment for the party, and he succeeds. And he rolls 3d8 plus 24. So 37 health gets returned to him, plus the +1 item bonus from his Staff of Healing. So he gets to 52 health, and then spends his last action striding away from both the Spectre and Jarell, who is out of control. So he wants to preserve himself so that he can re-raise the party. So next is the Spectre, and The specter is going to, again, try to... It's concerned about that heal ability of the druid, so it is going to focus on him. So, and try to spectral corrupt him again. And this will be a regular hit. It will do 10 negative damage and force him to make a saving throw. So he will now make yet another save. This succeeds, fortunately. Valeros is next, and now he does get to flank the specter with his double slice. So, seeing his opportunity, he will now attack from flanking. And it is flanked and flat-footed. So here we go. That's a critical hit. And then he gets to hit with his shield boss with double slice, and that is a miss. However, the critical hit was crucial. He is going to get 30 damage, and the resistance will only apply to 5 of that. And, oh, the spectral corruption, did it give it temporary hit points? Okay, it did get temporary hit points of 5. So 25 damage after resistance. So it loses 5 temporary hit points and takes 20 more damage. And also, actually, the critical specialization effect from his sword made it flat-footed to his follow-up attack, the shield boss, which would have hit. Actually, it was already flat-footed. No, never mind. So that is not a hit. Okay. So Jarell is next, and Jarell did not get Panache, so she's going to try to feint against Valeros, still following the commands, and do a deception check. And she succeeds this time, so he's flat-footed to her next attack, which will be a confident finisher. And she should have flanked, but it wouldn't have made a difference in this case. And a 20 will not hit. So confident finisher, it's a regular failure, so she still does half of her precision damage, so that's 4 damage applied to Valeros. Lorien is next, and will again try to hide. She does not succeed, and she will still go ahead and make a hunted shot. There's no cover this time, fortunately. That's a miss, and that's a miss. So she will try to hide again. And she will still not successful. Okay, so Ulrich, he wishes he had Shillelagh still. What he'll do is cast one of his spells that does, he casts 2nd level Shocking Grasp. And this is more powerful, obviously, than 1st level Shocking Grasp. It's one of his most damaging spells. And so he's going to make a spell attack roll against the enemy. And this is going to be a +11, and it is flat-footed. And a critical failure does not succeed. However, he is going to spend a hero point on this, and he has 2 of them that he can spend right now. Now, the meta is turned against attack roll spells. However, there is one advantage, because when you fail, you get 0 effect. But there is one advantage in that you can use a hero point on attack rolls versus spells that call for a saving throw. Okay, that will not work. And this Spectre is a tough fight. So the Spectre is next, and it will try to use Spectral Corruption again on Ulrich. And that's another regular success. He takes 18 negative damage, and he's going to have to make a saving throw, and him being stupefied is not helping, but he succeeds, fortunately. And the Spectre is going to fly up in the air. He knows the arrows have been coming from this direction, and go right here, and flying upward at a more than 45-degree angle makes every square difficult terrain, it's now away from the party. So Valeros, seeing this, oh, I forgot it. Jarell needs to make another saving throw. And succeeds this time. She is now with the good guys again. So that's very fortunate. So Valeros is... he wants to find an opportunity to do double slice again. He's actually going to delay and hope that it will use spectral corruption to and end its turn. And this gives a strategic choice to the specter. It has to choose between using its powerful spectral corruption ability, which is 2 actions, but it would leave it vulnerable at the end of its turn, and to Valeros. It may want to do a strike and then fly back away. So, oh, Valeros did have an attack of opportunity against the specter, so we will resolve that. And that was a critical hit, and that is 24 damage. And it becomes flat-footed until his turn, his next turn. So it remains flat-footed. So that was a big deal. Okay. So it got 5 more temporary hit points, and this damage that comes through is going to be 19 after resistance, 14 applied to its main health, and it flies upward. Okay. So it is Valeros's turn. He is going to delay. He could switch to a bow, but he's the group of weapons that he is a master in is the swords, so that does incentivize him to stick to a particular weapon group. In this case, he can use double slice with that as well, so he's going to stick to that. And next is our mentally healthy Jarell. Well, she also will delay because she is much more able to do things in melee. Lorien is going to move behind this arcane device and try to hide. And she's able to... well, she can't see there. She doesn't have dark vision. So she is going to use this, and because of 3-dimensionality, she could take cover against this specter that's up in the air. She's going to press against the wall. And 23 with the cover bonus will succeed. So she will have a chance, but it has a cover bonus to AC now. It's still useful. And use Hunted Shot. That is a hit, a regular hit, and that's a miss. And 12 will become 7 after resistance. So they're whittling away at its health. Ulrich now he's considering using his big spell, Fireball, but he does have Disrupt Undead as a spell. So he is going to kind of expose himself and go right here and spend 2 actions to cast Disrupt Undead. Now he has to do his flat check because he's stupefied. He succeeds, and let's see what Disrupt Undead does. It's a 30-foot range, and he's within range. And he's going to do 3d6 positive damage to the enemy. But it does get a saving throw of, DC 19 because he's stupefied. So it's a fortitude save. And it has a regular success. So it takes half damage, it takes 6 damage, and that is still useful. The Spectre descends and wants to take out the Spellcaster. And will do... well, I'm going to randomly roll to see if it's going to do hit and run tactics. Now, my house roll, well, this is how I randomly roll. I look at its intelligence score, which is +0, which would be converted to a 10. And if I roll that number or lower, it's going to act intelligently. And if it rolls higher than that, it will act instinctively, and in this case, higher is worse. So it's just going to go straight down to Ulrich and use its usual spectral corruption ability. I think it would have been smarter probably to stay up in the air and do hit and run tactics and avoid that archer. So it's going to do spectral corruption and do a vile touch attack yet again. And this will be another regular hit. And this will do 22 negative damage. And Ulrich is down to 2 hit points, and he has to do a will save, and he succeeds yet again. His indomitability has been valuable. So it's actually maybe 10 feet in the air because he went up to the stairs, which is probably a bad idea. He probably should have stayed on the ground directly underneath it. So Jarell and Valeros are next. They're going to jump back into the initiative. Valeros is going to move here, and I'm going to say if it's 10 feet up, he can still reach it with his sword, and he's flanking it. And he's going to do double slice. So here's our hit, and his second attack will also connect. So he gets to add the damage from both. And that will be 23 damage. Now, the Spectre had gotten temporary hit points again. So 23 damage becomes 18 after resistance, and takes away 13 of its actual hit points. So as you can see, a boss battle really is a boss battle in Pathfinder 2e. So Jarell's next, and she's somewhat at a loss. Her precise strike ability from Panache does not work because it's precision damage. It doesn't work against the Spectre. And so she's thinking of ways to help her allies. Now, what she is going to do is insult the Spectre. She took the diplomacy skill feat Bon Mot, which lets her insult it and distract it so that it's more susceptible to mental attacks and its perception goes down. So she has to be within 30 feet of it. So she is, and she's going to say something. She's going to wound its pride and say that it's bound to this place. It's someone's servant. So they share a language, common, and she goes ahead and does a diplomacy check against the will DC. It's 25, so it's not going to be easy. She may not succeed. And do a diplomacy skill check. So plus 11. Okay, 18 does not succeed. That would have been fun, though, and would have helped Lorien hide in the future. Lorien's next, and just a reminder, there's actually another way to get the hidden condition, which is to create a diversion. This is from the first video, but she's not trained in deception, and she's not going to succeed at that, probably. So she's going to keep at trying to hide behind cover. She's going to move here with her fast speed and use stealth. And that does not succeed. So now she will use Hunted Shot against the Spectre. And it has a +1 circumstance bonus to AC because of the cover provided. She uses Hunted Shot. That's a miss. And that will be a critical hit. So this could be it. She does 19 damage, and this is going to be applied first against its temporary hit points, and so there's 14 left, and it resists 5, so it's down to 9 hit points. So it's now Ulrich's turn, and his original idea of protecting himself so that he could heal others is revised. He sees he's the actual target, so he'd like to get away. However, he sees that the Spectre's right after him in initiative and at very low health. He hopes that he can kill it with Disrupt Undead. So to cast a spell, because he's Stupefied 2, he has to do a flat check, get a 7 or higher here, and he succeeds. So he now will cast Disrupt Undead and hopefully kill it. Okay, 19 positive damage, very high damage. And it will now make a saving throw. Critical failure. So yeah, it takes 38 positive damage and is destroyed. and they have defeated the Specter.